Down to business.
When he drinks, he thinks.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the #1 liquid-fueled, liquid lubricated show on the interwebs. This is the Whiskey Musings Broadcast, and I am your host, Rick. Well, I see a bunch of people. I've actually seen some names, some names pop up that I haven't seen in a while, like Ms. T of Texas, of Tex. She popped over to Rumble and said, yeah, I'll go back over to Facebook because the Facebook group is a nice tight-knit group. But hey, speaking of the Facebook group, we've got Tommy, we've got Mark. I'm still waiting on Becky to show up, but I'm sure she'll come by. Oh, I see. Slumming both ways, huh, there, Tommy? Anyway, so yay, welcome to everyone. Of course, we've got the standard group of miscreants over on Rumble. Dave's Cave, Bam, 3 Chevy, Daybreak, Buddy Weiser, Outlaw Dogs, Bonnie, and I think I saw Midwest Gunner stop by as well. You know, it's kind of interesting. I actually appreciate some of you folks that are jumping into both sides of the chats because, you know, and the different chats. I mean, the different ones. Obviously, you know, I've got YouTube, I've got Rumble, I've got Facebook. Most people hang out in either Rumble or Facebook. And so, yeah, it's pretty cool to see that you guys are actually interested enough in each other that you're willing to jump and sit in both chats and running at the same time. I mean, I know Outlaw Dogs has done it a couple of times. It looks like Ms. T is heading off that way as well. And so, yeah, it's really kind of cool. I appreciate all of you. I don't know if I say it enough. If I do, then, well, there it goes again. I've said it all over again. I love my whiskey warriors. Hey, Becky showed up. Becky from the land down under. She's in the chat down over on Facebook. So, hey, welcome, Becky. I know it's a different time zone for you, and I really do appreciate that. So that is awesome. Yeah, you know, and some people can't get into Facebook because they've been put into Facebook jail. That's fine. Whatever works. Okay. But as always, I appreciate all my Whiskey Warrior P1s and any newbies as well. Any of you newbies that are out there, people who may not be in the chats but are watching as well. I know that there's some folks that do that. All right, for tonight I am drinking the Redneck Riviera whiskey from John Rich. Speaking of John Rich, something happened yesterday, which was actually pretty cool if you were the gentleman who he was referring things to. I got something about that much later on in the program, toward the end of the night. Hopefully I will get to it and get that taken care of. All right, let's go on to tonight's, of course, our sponsor affiliate page, the Institute on the Constitution. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission: to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.whiskeymusings.online, to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.whiskeymusings.online to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. What kind of a package is that you can learn about our historical founding and you can support the Whiskey Musings broadcast. This is just fantastic. That's iotc.whiskeymusings.online. Or if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, go to constitution.whiskeymusings.online. This is a 1/8 inch, roughly, Saddleback leather. Look at that. It comes with waterproof, or not waterproof, water resistant, I should say, pages. And check out that binding. That binding is stitched all the way through the leather and the book itself. It has nice rounded corners, is a perfect shape to fit inside of a chest pocket or in a purse or something like that. This right here has a 100-year warranty against materials and defects in workmanship. If it falls apart during that time, you can send it back to them and they will either replace it or fix it for free for you. It is fantastic. It is buddy tested, buddy approved. It's my youngest whiskey warrior tested out. He passed his civics exams to get his civics badge in Scouts, to go on his way to being an Eagle Scout. This is a fantastic gift. Get enough for your kids, your friends, anybody that you want to, even that liberal that you just want to annoy. Just for fun, head on over to constitution.whiskeymusings.online and get one of those today and support the show. I believe they're like $19. So yeah, it's just absolutely fantastic. It also helps too, because if you've got the Constitution with you, people can't argue with that is in print. And of course, I thank the Institute on the Constitution for allowing me to be an affiliate of theirs. That is just fantastic. All right. So let's get on to our next segment of the show, which is a fan favorite, I will admit, by several of them. Fan favorite. And here it is. It is on this day in American history. And of course, for this segment, on this day in American history, we read from the American Patriots Almanac, written by William J. Bennett and John T.E. Cribb. It is a thick, thick book filled with all kinds of little tidbits and stories about our historical founding, the greatest country literally on the planet and known to man so far in history. All right, today is August 12th, if I'm right. Yep, August 12th. We're going to get into a little bit of geography tonight. The longest U.S. rivers. On August 12th, 1805, Captain Meriwether Lewis of the famed Lewis and Clark expedition climbed a ridge near the Continental Divide and the most distant fountain of the waters of the mighty Missouri in search of what we have spent so many toilsome days and restless nights. The expedition had spent weeks trekking to the headwaters of the Missouri, one of the world's great rivers. The United States is blessed with more than 250,000 rivers and streams, 3.5 million miles of rivers in all, including a dozen exceeding 1,000 miles in length. And here is a list of some of those all the way to 1,000 miles. We have the Missouri River, which starts in Montana and ends in the Mississippi near St. Louis. The Mississippi River, which starts in Minnesota and ends in the Gulf of Mexico. We have the Yukon River, which starts in British Columbia and ends in the Bering Sea. We have the Rio Grande, which starts in Colorado and ends in the Gulf of Mexico. We have the St. Lawrence River, which starts in Lake Ontario and ends in the Gulf of St. Lawrence. Arkansas River, which starts in Colorado and moves to the Mississippi River in Arkansas. The Colorado River, which starts in Colorado and goes to the Gulf of California. We have the Ohio River, which starts in Pennsylvania and ends in the Mississippi River at Cairo, Illinois. We have the Red River, which starts in Texas and ends at the Atchafalaya River in Louisiana. I probably mincemeat that. Sue me. I'm a Northwesterner. I can't say anything if it's not an Indian name. We have the Brazos River in Texas going to the Gulf of Mexico. We have the Columbia River, which starts in British Columbia, Canada, and goes to the Pacific Ocean at Astoria, Oregon. Beautiful river. Love that river. The Snake River, which starts in the Yellowstone National Park and goes to the Columbia River and connects in Washington. And those are basically all of the rivers that are over 1,000 miles, according to this list. And that is today's On This Day in American... on this day in American history. I'm sorry, I got a little distracted. I'm being picked on here a little bit. Tommy over on Facebook says, I nailed the A River, but it's Brazos River. Must be a Texas thing. And then, of course, I'm being told, which this is an insult. For those of you that don't know, this is actually an insult. Bonnie says, bless your heart, Whiskey. Bless your heart. Yeah, that just means... that's a bad... Oh, when somebody says "bless your heart" from the South, that they just mean, oh, you are an idiot. Oh, God. Yeah. Oh, Bonnie's saying it's not an insult. Okay, so it's not an insult, huh? All right. Okay. Hey, I'll take it. Whatever. Oh my gosh. Anyway, all right. So several things popped here in the current events sphere, and I've brought them together because a lot of them, not everyone, not all of them here. The first one here that I'm going to talk about probably isn't a good thing per se for our side, but the rest of them though. They kind of indicate that some of the chinks in Biden's armor are starting to widen and crack and get, things are not going quite as well for the Biden administration as we start coming around with that because of the fact that, again, there's just some things that are not going the administration's way. And then I've got a couple of, later on in the program for the questions for Whiskey, I do have a couple of questions that came from Outlaw Dogs over on Rumble, and I'm excited to talk about those. It's kind of a twofer. It's not Twofer Tuesday. It's, I don't know what it is for Saturday. I know Wednesdays are Pantsless Wednesdays, so, but some of the people over in Rumble I know have already, stripped their pants off because, at least for some of us, it's pretty damn hot. But anyway, all right, let's get on with the program. So first of all, I don't know if anybody heard, I'm sure everybody did, but David Weiss has been named now special counsel. And he basically did it, I think, because of the political pressure and everything else to try and present a semblance of what might be a DOJ that would not necessarily be, let's say, partisan, for lack of a better word. But this popped in Just the News, and I kind of agree with these guys. But you remember those IRS whistleblowers? The ones that came and said that, hey, David Weiss said he didn't have the proper authority and all of this other stuff. Anyway, they came out, Shapley or Shapley, whatever, however you pronounce his last name. He came out and his attorneys came out and said that Barry Weiss, what am I saying? David Weiss being appointed as special counsel was the wrong choice. And let's just read from the piece. This is in Just the News. The legal team representing IRS whistleblower Gary Shapley on Friday slammed Attorney Merrick Garland's decision to appoint U.S. Attorney David Weiss as a special counsel to investigate first son Hunter Biden, and contended that the appointment validated his testimony to Congress. The courageous IRS whistleblowers who risked their careers to inform the American people about problems with the Hunter Biden investigation have been subjected to retaliation, and their credibility has been repeatedly attacked, they stated. Yet today's appointment of special counsel in the Hunter Biden investigation confirms their testimony that such an appointment was necessary to overcome roadblocks accompanying charges against the president's son by Biden political appointees in D.C. and California. Clearly, Delaware U.S. Attorney David Weiss did not actually have all the authority he needed before this appointment, contrary to his and Attorney General Garland's repeated claims to Congress. They continued. Now, that is an interesting point, just to kind of digress from the piece a little bit. You remember how Merrick Garland was saying, oh no, David Weiss could have prosecuted anywhere. And then you had the IRS whistleblower saying, no, actually, David Weiss said he couldn't prosecute anywhere outside of Delaware. So here again is kind of an indication that the Biden administration and the people involved in this particular case, Merrick Garland, or Meritless Garland, as Mark Levin likes to call him, he literally has now, by making this move, has now confirmed the fact that David Weiss actually did not have the appropriate permissions to go after Hunter Biden. And so, like I said, this thing is kind of, it's seeming like it's a little bit of a walk back, and it's a little bit of a kind of a acquiescence, I guess, in a way, maybe to try and avoid being the target of a investigation by the House of Representatives, because they seem to be going after everybody. And again, they keep talking about possibly bringing in some of the Biden family on subpoenas. And so this might be a preemptive kind of, if you think about this as sort of like a chess match, this might be like, granted, it's not one of the big pieces, but it might be like a movement of a pawn in order to sort of block the path of, say, a bishop or something like that. If you're not into chess, totally understand that analogy. May not go, may go right over your head, but that's okay. You get the gist. It's a move. It's a shift. And again, this is, as things are really starting to heat up on this stuff, they are getting to a point where this is going to become some serious conversations. However, there is another angle to this that I need you to consider. And this angle is a bit odd because of the fact, if you have a special counsel who is investigating, there is the potential, like what you see with the FBI and any of the DOJ folks that have testified in front of Congress, this very well could be a move to protect Hunter Biden and some of his associates, who can essentially say, when they sit down in front of Congress, they can say, I can't comment on that because it's under investigation. That's kind of an interesting tact, and very likely could be the reason for this. Now, I don't necessarily believe that this is, a good move. Okay, let's just put it that way. I don't necessarily think this is a good move. I don't think it's really going to net anything. I think what it's probably going to do is just cause some more murkying in the waters, and we're not going to be able to, see some things because, of course, the general counsel is going to claim, well, it's my purview and so on and so forth. So this is kind of one of those things that we're going to have to sort of see how this plays out. But that being said, The immediately I can tell you for a fact that Mark Levin was immediately saying that this shouldn't have been David Weiss. It should not have been somebody within the DOJ. It honestly should have been somebody outside of the circuit to be anointed the special counsel. And so, again, this is kind of suspect in terms of how this is going. Well, it's not just people like Mark Levin or myself or anybody else that is really getting upset about this. Apparently, our hapless House Speaker, who I think is just trying to keep his job. I mean, I'll just be honest with you. I think he's kind of I'm just hoping that I'll keep my job. But anyway, this piece from Breitbart came out, and Kevin McCarthy apparently blasts Garland's appointment of David Weiss as special counsel in the Hunter Biden probe. He wonders how, this is from Kevin McCarthy, he wonders how U.S. Attorney David Weiss can be trusted to serve as special counsel in the Hunter Biden probe after Weiss's office brokered his now dead sweetheart plea deal. Now, that is a complete valid question and an interesting angle in the conversations around this, because if you recall, David Weiss stood in front of the judge and the defense for Hunter Biden stood in front of the judge, and the two of them felt that the plea deal was something totally different from the other. And so this is part of the reason why the plea deal actually fell apart, is because David Weiss was saying, well, he's still under investigation. Whereas the defense was saying, yeah, but this plea deal is going to absolve him of anything that he does both today and down the road. And now it seems like since the Hunter Biden plea deal has fallen apart and he is actually reportedly going to trial, I don't know if there's anything that's, maybe there might be something that changes. But the fact that that Hunter Biden's case is reportedly going to go to trial now that the plea deal has fallen apart, it essentially calls into question what's the purpose behind this, because David Weiss, I mean, I'll be honest with you, after reading that plea deal and the way that it was written, if he did not catch that or did not understand what was going on with that, I think that he should probably, I agree with Kevin McCarthy on this one. I think he should probably step down as special counsel. He should not be a part of this, because, I mean, if the guy was that gullible, I just don't see it. I just don't see it. So apparently, going back to the piece here in Breitbart, Kevin McCarthy went to X, formerly known as Twitter, and said this action by Biden's DOJ cannot be used to obstruct congressional investigations or whitewash the Biden family corruption. If Weiss negotiated the sweetheart deal that couldn't get approved, how can he be trusted as special counsel? House Republicans will continue to pursue. Now, occasionally, I'm just going to tell you, occasionally Kevin McCarthy actually finds his cojones and says things that really and truly make sense. So this is going to be kind of an interesting situation when it comes up. Continuing in the piece, this action by Biden's I just read that. Sorry. Garland stated that Weiss requested he be appointed special counsel this week. This comes after IRS whistleblower testimony alleging that he previously requested the status but was denied. House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer is skeptical about the appointment, as he should be, alleging that it is part of a DOJ cover-up amid the Republican investigations. Notably, Garland's move comes a day after Comer revealed plans to subpoena some of the Biden family members. Okay, so remember that Comer came out and said, now, this is one of the things that I kind of get a little frustrated with. It's like you're not a lawyer, You're not in a courtroom. So you're not subjected to the Brady law. Why give away what you're going to do? Why give away your moves? Why give away your plans? Comer should have kept his mouth shut and just subpoenaed them anyway, meaning the Biden family members. He honestly should have. I mean, that's the path that I would have taken. I would be holding, in this particular case, especially, I would be holding my cards up close to my vest so that nobody would know what I had in the hole. And unfortunately, I know that the public is like looking for information with regards to this. At least the smart ones, like myself and all my Whiskey Warrior P1s are. We're paying attention to this very, very closely. But at the same time, though, you need to understand that they have to be very careful in terms of what they do, how they do it, and where the information comes from, especially now because of things like this. For an example, things like, we find out something about Hunter Biden and his laptop and his bank accounts and bank records, and then all of a sudden Donald Trump gets hit with another freaking indictment. It's stuff like that after that happened the first 2, 3, 4 times, I probably would be like, you know what? We're not going to let the public necessarily know right away until we have something really, 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 really needing to be put out, rather than trying to be, again, trying to be transparent to the American public. I get it. I understand, considering this particular situation and the transparency of this administration, which was supposedly going to be the most transparent ever and is definitely not transparent at all. I get the need and the desire to try and show the public, look, this is what's going on. But at the same time, sometimes you just gotta play it a little more cagey. And, it just doesn't, it just doesn't seem to happen. And of course, keep in mind, this isn't because of Biden. They could care less about Biden. This is to protect the guy behind Biden, or the person, the individual, the former president who's behind Biden, who's running the show. That's who they're protecting. They don't give a crap about Biden. I mean, that's pretty evident right now. Anyway, so some further things that have happened with Hunter Biden, but I want to get to these 3 things to watch now that the special counsel is going to be taking over the inquiry. So there's some 3 things that need to be watched. And first of all, of course, we've already been talking about it. The Republicans are unhappy with Weiss. And they are, it's Senator Graham, according to, this is a piece in Washington Examiner, so to get a few more quotes, Senator Lindsey Graham, who's a rhino, alleged that Weiss's appointment will create more problems than answers. House Majority Leader Stephen Scalise argued that the decision was just an attempt by Garland to block info from Congress while claiming they're investigating. And I actually think that's probably pretty damn close, to be honest with you. Governor Ron DeSantis told supporters on Friday that he thought Hunter would be in jail if he were a Republican. No stinking crap, Ronnie. Of course he would. And by saying so, implying the hypocrisy on the part of the Department of Justice. Former South Carolina Nikki Haley noted that voters are not worried about either Hunter Biden or Trump's legal issues, but they were concerned about the distrust in the federal government alongside many other topics. Actually, I think the economy is really the top of pretty much everybody's, particular ladder, but that's okay. Do you like that accent? I tried. Anyway, all right. So the appointee, of course, could complicate the House inquiries. This makes sense. Just because of the fact I just got blasted. That accent is awful. All right. Several leading members of the House Judiciary Committee are skeptical as to whether Weiss will be thorough in his investigation of Biden, and that he would offer favorable treatment to Hunter based on prior conduct. Yeah. Again, I think a lot of people are really paying attention to this. Sorry, I'm watching the chat and they're all like smacking me because of because of my accent. Hey, I spent several years in Texas where I did pick up an accent. Okay. Can't say that it was effective, but I did pick it up. Anyway. Okay. The timelines themselves are unclear. So prosecutors in, Hunter Biden's trial said in a filing on Friday that the negotiations around Hunter Biden's case are at an impasse, and which would likely mean the president's son will still be heading toward a criminal trial. It just won't happen in Delaware, according to this. The trial will most likely occur in Washington, D.C., or the Central District of California, where the initial crimes that led to Hunter Biden's charges arose. Okay, so let's be honest here, folks. Let's be completely honest about this. If he goes to Washington, D.C., he's not going to get a fair trial. He'll get a slanted trial. He'll get the opposite of what Trump is getting. He will get favorable treatment, whereas Trump is going to go into that trial in D.C. and just get totally shellacked because nobody there happens to like him. Whereas everybody will like Hunter just because he's a Biden. And let's also say the exact same thing, which is that if he goes to California, California, the land of milk and Newsom. I don't know about the milk, but definitely the land of Newsom. Yeah, he's going to get specialized treatment over there too. Yeah. This particular piece is not looking necessarily good for the right. But I do believe that that we do have a potential, depending upon how things shake out, there is a potential that it might not be as bad as what we think. Okay. Might not be as bad as what we think. Now, I'll be honest with you. If it moves, if the trial moves, I don't think he's going to get what's essentially considered a sweet. He'll get not only a sweetheart deal, but he'll also get a sweetheart case, which kind of sucks. But let's be honest, we didn't think any of this was really going to go anywhere anyway, right? You're smart. You would know that it's not going to happen because we have a two-tiered justice system, and we have, as of right now, a banana republic. All right. Outside of the case, okay? Outside of the case, we now actually have yet another articles of impeachment filing against Joe Biden. Now, keep in mind, okay, remember, Kevin McCarthy did put a stay or a moratorium, I guess would be considered, did a moratorium on the impeachment articles because you've had, Marjorie Taylor Greene filed them. I'm trying to think of who else. There was one other prominent person that filed them too, shortly after Biden got in office. And so, yeah. So anyway, this guy, Greg Steube, representative from Florida, went ahead and filed articles of impeachment against Joe Biden on Friday. The Daily Caller, this comes from the Daily Caller. So the Daily Caller obtained the resolution, which lists bribery, extortion, obstruction of justice, fraud, and financial involvement in drugs and prostitution as reasons to impeach Biden. Steube said in a statement after introducing the resolution, "It's long past time to impeach Joe Biden. He has undermined the integrity of his office, brought disrepute on the presidency, betrayed his trust as president, and acted in a manner subversive to the rule of law. and justice at the expense of America's citizens. The evidence continues to mount by the day. The Biden crime family has personally profited off of Joe's government positions through bribery, threats, and fraud. Joe Biden must not be allowed to continue to sit in the White House selling out our country. Now, let me read you a little snippet or a little bit from each one of these articles. Okay? So Article 1 in this statement says Robert Hunter Biden, which is Hunter Biden, in case you didn't pick that up, and James Biden sold access to then Vice President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. while he was in office from 2009 to 2017 and sold promised access to a future Biden presidential administration while he was out of office from 2017 to 2021. Hunter and James appeared to have promised official actions by Joe in return for payments and business opportunities from foreign and domestic business partners. Joe Biden assisted in making appearances, phone calls, meetings with the business partners, and knowingly allowing his family members to promise access to him and actions by him in furtherance of these schemes. Now, this, kind of digress from here. This is the crux of those whole those stupid ass phone calls, okay? Folks, seriously. It wasn't what they talked about that was the key thing that mattered. It was the fact that he could call and get his dad on the phone to talk crap with somebody unknown, and have that access. That's what they sold. That's what they sold. It had nothing to do with whether or not Joe talked about the weather or talked about, whatever on the phone. That's not the point. The point was to go and essentially sell the fact that Joe Biden would do what he needed to do in order to, gain the money, pick up the money. Okay. Further down in the piece here, it lists a couple of the specific acts or specific statutes that is being filed for. So picking it up here, it says, these acts are abuses of power as well as the following federal crimes or conspiracy to commit the following federal crimes. Bribery of public officials, which is 18 U.S.C. 201. The Hobbs Act extortion under color of official right, 18 U.S.C. 1951. Honest services fraud relating to the use of an official position, 18 U.S.C. 1346. Article 2 starts off, according to the testimony from IRS whistleblowers, members of the Biden campaign improperly colluded with the Justice Department officials to improperly interfere with investigations into tax crimes alleged to have been committed by Hunter Biden. These acts constitute an abuse of power as well as obstruction of justice, which is under 18 U.S.C. 1505, 1510, and 1512. Article 3 covers James Biden recruited investors for business ventures that ultimately failed. There is evidence to suggest that these investment opportunities were sold to investors based on false and fraudulent pretenses and promises. Access to Joe Biden and indications that Joe Biden supported these schemes were used to lure investors into the schemes. These acts constitute fraud or conspiracy to commit fraud in violation of 18 U.S.C. sections 1943 and 1949. And that's actually where MTG this is where it's related to MTG's articles of impeachment, by the way. Let's see. Article 4 says that Joe and Hunter have had a long history of commingled and intertwined finances. Between 2010 and 2019, thousands of dollars of Biden family money was spent on illegal drug transactions and prostitution. These acts constitute violations of our conspiracy to violate federal drug laws at 21 U.S.C. 1841, 42, 43, 46, and federal prostitution laws at 18 U.S.C. 2421, 2421A, and 2422. So, he's calling it out. Now, the U.S. House of Representatives, as I pointed out already, in late June, voted to delay efforts to impeach Biden, and the vote was 219 to 208. And in May, Marjorie Taylor Greene, MTG, introduced articles of impeachment during a press conference, which pretty much everybody saw that, and everybody was like, oh, yeah, that's not going to go anywhere. Anyway. So this, again, folks, I mean, do we honestly believe that any of this is going to go anywhere? Probably not. But the thing about it is that, again, when you start tugging at a thread in a carpet or a shirt or a sweater, and you just start kind of tugging it just a little bit, and it gets looser and looser and looser, and pretty soon, after a while, the entire thing will unravel. So do I honestly think that anything is going to happen before 2024? I doubt it. But keep in mind that because they tried to impeach Donald Trump after he left office, they opened the freaking door. Okay, they opened the door, and yeah. So it's anyway. We're gonna see what happens. I mean, realistically, what needs to happen is Joe needs to be impeached. Kamala needs to be impeached as well. Because for dereliction of duty, because she's supposedly the borders are. I've said this before. So anyway. All right. Well, the hits just keep on coming for good old Joe. And for Hunter Biden, actually. Here's the thing. You remember Hunter's, I think I covered this on a couple episodes back. Hunter has a lawyer, and that lawyer was caught on camera smoking a bong on his apartment porch. And it was during the time that Hunter apparently visited, according to the article that brought it out. Well, apparently he now, and this is in the California bar, has decided to open up an ethics probe into Kevin Morris, who is Hunter Biden's lawyer. Now, the reason for the probe has nothing to do with him smoking the bong on the porch, at least not as far as I know. However, he apparently went and spied upon the movie set of the My Son Hunter movie. And My Son Hunter, in case you guys, don't know, is a film that chronicles Hunter Biden as he navigates a tangled web of prostitution, partying, business dealings, drugs, sex, Chinese spies, Ukrainian oligarchs, and his responsibility to be the leader of the free world. And I think they actually meant Joe's responsibilities. But anyway, Morris, who is a high-powered Hollywood attorney who has been retained by Hunter to craft legal and media strategy, flew to Serbia under the guise of filming interviews for a documentary that plans to portray Hunter Biden as a victim. During his visit to the My Son Hunter set, Morris allegedly failed to disclose that he was Hunter Biden's legal representation, according to producer Philim. What is that? Yeah. Phelim. Very strange way to spell it. Makir, MC, capital A-L-E-R. Yeah. Anyway, who filed the ethics complaint with the California State Bar. Morris is under investigation for the incident, which could result in investigation or prosecution, a letter from the California State Bar obtained by the New York Post shows. Morris remains in good standing with the bar at the moment. Peter Schweitzer, a senior contributor to Breitbart News, told the Post the problem is that no one really knows what Kevin Morris's motive was in regards to his interest in helping Hunter Biden. It's possible that Kevin is not using his own money, Schweitzer added, continuing to say, His powerful friends in Hollywood could be funneling their money through Kevin to help Hunter. Morris is a Hollywood insider / lawyer / agent, but in the context of this Biden story, he is an absolute mystery. The problem here is that you have millions of dollars flowing to the first family of the U.S. who are embroiled in foreign controversy, but there is zero transparency. We're just supposed to do this guessing game. Morris has emerged as a main character in the Hunter Biden investigation. Breitbart News first reported in April that Morris took control of Hunter Biden's 10% stake in the BHR Partners through Scandinales LLC, the entity originally created by Hunter Biden. Bank of China, a state-owned bank, controls BHR Partners, which claims it maintains 22 billion Chinese yuan in various portfolio companies, translating to more than $3 billion US. Hunter Biden allegedly divested from BHR Partners after increased pressure due to a conflict of interest upon Joe Biden's assuming the White House. Oh, yeah, you think? Anyway. So this is, again, the whole Biden saga continues. Give me a break. It's not just Biden. It's all of the close friends, the associates, every other ones of these. I mean, this is just crazy. This is just nuts. Okay. To think that this guy and his family was able to get even close to the White House, knowing what we know about him, is absolutely astounding. All right, we're going to shift gears a little bit here. You remember that case, that Missouri and Louisiana case that I talked to you about a few episodes ago? Yeah, that whole case about free speech and how the federal government was working with non-government organizations or NGOs like X, formerly known as Twitter, Facebook, to go after and suppress information, in particular about COVID and all that. Well, if you recall, the judge in the case basically tried to slap an injunction against the federal government in order to keep them from doing it while the case was going on. Okay. Well, according to this hot air piece that just came out, things are looking rough or tough for the Fed's censorship police in court. Federal officials love censoring people. Yes, they do. Absolutely. To be fair, every government does and has since man walked the earth. That's why the founders wrote the First Amendment, and it's no accident that it came first in the Bill of Rights, followed closely by the right to keep and bear arms. There is no freedom at all if there's no freedom to think and speak as one will. Now, the district court judge Terry Doherty slapped a restraining order on the government prohibiting its collusion with social media companies to censor American speech. The injunction stemmed from the lawsuit that I just described by Missouri and Louisiana, demanding that the federal government stop pressuring social media companies to shut Americans up on issues. The Biden administration got mad, and so they filed a stay of execution with the appeals court. Okay. And they went to the Fifth Circuit Court, and the Justice Department's Civil Division Attorney, Daniel Tenney, faced, listen to this, a hostile audience. The panel of judges appeared appropriately skeptical of Tenney's contention that the case was meritless, moot, and brought by ineligible plaintiffs. Worse for him, Tenney got what amounts to a tongue lashing from the panel. How bad was it? Well, a certain judge compared the government's actions to a mafia protection racket with unsuitable threats of harm to the companies should they not, or should they fail to comply with the demands of government officials. Here's coming from this. Federal officials appeared to practice fairly unsuitable strong-arming and make not-so-veiled threats in the vein of this is a really nice social media platform you've got there. Would be a shame if something happened to it, Willett said, which is exactly what the mob does. The mob comes in, hey, you know, you like this restaurant. This is a pretty nice restaurant. It'd be kind of a shame if something happened, like a fire or burned down. Anyway, Tenney, upon hearing what the judges appeared to be interpreting as coercive pressure, tried to soft pedal the severity of that pressure. Tenney said the government is generically going to be angry when companies resist taking action. But the communications show officials and companies alternating between friendly and testy conversations, not specific orders to comply or else. And Judge Elrod didn't seem particularly convinced, telling Tenney that or else isn't required when the government and companies have a very close working relationship that resembles a supervisor addressing a subordinate. Interesting. The irate messages actually show high-ranking officials badgering counterparts about what they hadn't taken action against specific accounts as requested, Judge Elrod said. It's like jump and how high. So apparently one of the key strengths in this, we already knew, is the fact that there is literally a treasure trove of actual communications that is a complete paper trail, making it completely clear. I mean, come on. Anyone with a freaking brain can see with the paper trail that's been put out, these guys tried to use these non-governmental organizations in order to freaking clamp down on things that Americans were saying. People like myself. One of my accounts got kicked off of Twitter for something that I said, and totally was my old account. I was unable to reopen it. Twitter, in fact, has kind of ignored me since I've been asking. So yeah, I told you this case was going to be really key and crucial, and I'm kind of glad that the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals has at least some semblance of intelligence sitting on its panel, because they're basically looking at the government and saying, yeah, you guys really stepped in it this time, and we're not buying it. And I like that. That's actually pretty damn cool, to be honest with you. So anyway, let me see if it says here what else would happen. No. Let's see. All right. So here, a little bit later on in the piece, it says, should the states win their case, it would be a victory for free speech, although it likely will be somewhat hollow. A lot of damage has been done already, and the result of this could simply be that the paper trails, rather than the illegal actions, will disappear. There's already some whistleblowers coming forward, by the way, according to this piece, that are saying that the FBI is particularly ignoring the injunction. What of a surprise. Oh, what a surprise for that. All right. So, hey, we're getting small victories here, people. We're getting small victories. Granted, they don't seem like they're a whole heck of a lot, but we are getting the smaller victories here and there and everywhere. And so this is really, you know, you got to take the good, even if it's a small victory. You got to take it and you got to hold it, especially in today's day and age, because realistically, in today's day and age, it's just, you've got so much stuff that's going on that's bad. You've got to take the victories, because if you don't, you'll just go mad. You'll go crazy. So you've got to focus on the good. And so I'm going to sit here and I'm going to say that those little things might be some small victories, but I'm going to go ahead and celebrate them, because that's just the way that I am. All right. Okay, let's take a quick moment, gather our thoughts a little bit more. And before we move on to the next, I want to bring you guys and let you all get aware of the Whiskey Musings store. Hey, if you're looking for some fabulous t-shirts, sweatshirts, glassware, I've got a whole bunch of other things, and you just want to support the show, and you didn't want to, you've already bought a Constitution, you've already bought this thing, and you're looking for other ways to help the show out, well, head on over to my store. It is store.whiskeymusings.online, store.whiskeymusings.online, and go and check out my products that I have available, the little apparel that I have. I've got logo hoodies and sweatshirts. I've got mugs. I've got pint glasses, water glasses. I think I've even got unfortunately, I don't have any whiskey shot glasses. I wish I did. I really, really, really wish I did. But I do have like a cooler for wine. I've got water bottles, t-shirts, tank tops, just all kinds of stuff here at the store. So just head on over. It's got my logo on it. I've got my phrase of when I drink, I think, Whiskey Musings. Head on over there. All kinds of colors, all kinds of sizes. Just fantastic products. And I've been told that my distributor here has kicked up the time that it takes, or not kicked it up, but like tried to reduce the time that it takes from the time you order till the time you get it. Remember, everything in here is made to order. I don't keep anything on hand, and so it does take a little bit longer to get. But the thing about it is that, they're trying to get things faster to you, and it's some pretty good quality stuff. I mean, I do have some baseball caps. I don't want to get ripped on for that again and again. There's pint glasses. I don't have beer mugs, unfortunately, not yet. But pint glasses and things of that nature too. So head on over to store.whiskeymusings.online. Check it out, and if you're of a mind, go ahead and pick one up. Pick something up for yourself and proudly display the Whiskey Musings logo, or the Whiskey Musings saying, or motto, as I say, of the when I drink, I think, and support the show. I would appreciate it. Thank you very much. If you decide to do so, I do appreciate it. Yeah, hey, I even appreciate the fact that you're even going to head on over there and take a look, because, of course, anything to support the show is just fantastic, and I appreciate every single one of you over here. All right. Let's move on to my next common and favorite subject. Well, I won't say favorite, but before I get into the economy, a article popped in 1945, and I know that you guys, I've been telling you on multiple occasions about how risky we are sitting right now in terms of a case in history with regards to Taiwan and China invading Taiwan. Now, if you recall, as I have mentioned a couple of other times on the program, that 90% of the electronics that we use, 90% of the things that I have right here, just doing this broadcast, has a piece of Taiwan or a silicon chip made by Taiwan in it. Doesn't matter whether it comes from Japan or China or Korea or Vietnam. It doesn't matter any of those, because of the fact that many of those locations, they will bring in chips from Taiwan and incorporate it into the products. Now, there's a couple reasons why China wants Taiwan. Number one is that China's own chip manufacturing facilities and manufacturing products hasn't really been able to compete with Taiwan's quality. Hence the reason why Taiwan has, 90% of the chip manufacturing market. The other thing is that China is getting irritated and tired over the fact that their chips are, failing so much, and that they want to corner the market on the chips and the silicon manufacturing. the issue that we have, though, is that China also is controlling a majority of the interest in the raw materials that are made for these chips. So where Joe Biden gets this idea that the CHIPS Act and making chips here in the U.S. is actually going to compete with anything overseas is kind of questionable at best. Mainly just because of the fact that we don't have necessarily the entire resources, because we've handed them out. We've handed that out to the Far East. We've handed that out. In a long time ago when RCA decided to hand over television manufacturing over to Japan, I believe it was. But anyway, we right now are sitting on a powder keg over there in the East. And this article, I would say out of all of the articles that I have in the description, you should probably read this one. Just because it kind of frames and sets up the reference in terms of the trouble that we are actually in with regards to this particular situation, all thanks to the fact that Joe Biden is weak on all kinds of foreign policy and has actually been apparently purchased by China through CEFC. So here's the article in 1945, and it says, "What should America do if China invades Taiwan?" So if China chooses war over Taiwan, and I don't even think that's an if, I think it's a matter of more of a when, there will be no good choice for America. But the president and Congress are obligated to make the decision that best preserves American freedom, security, and prosperity. Taiwan's, now you'll recall, as I told you, Taiwan's president is actually up for election in 2024. And hey, those of you who are over on Rumble, or I'm sorry, on Facebook, we have a celebrity that just stepped in to the chat over there on Facebook, and that is none other than Jay Money from the Mark K Show is sitting over there. He just mentioned that my hair is getting long, and you are correct, Mr. Bose. My hair is getting long. But anyway, okay, let me get back to the piece. So if you have a Facebook account, head on over there and say hi. Or better yet, Jay, come on over to Rumble and say hello to all the people over in Rumble too. Okay, so if you recall, 2024 actually is a presidential election in Taiwan as well. And so the current vice president, Lai Ching-te, who is the 2024 presidential candidate, by the way, will be visiting the United States today. He is visiting today to meet with the American officials. China warns that the visit is like a gray rhino charging at us. In China, this metaphor is used to indicate a big, obvious threat that needs to be dealt with. As the language indicates, tensions between the U.S. and China remain strained. Beijing's preparation for future combat continues to accelerate, and Washington must contemplate the pros and cons of fighting a war with China. So yeah, this is not going good, folks. I mean, this is, we've just been creeping inexorably to a conflict with China over Taiwan. And, yeah, it's a bit of a pain in the butt, really. But anyway, so from that point, though, even it's from the piece, it says, even in the best case scenarios where the U.S. prevails, the road to recovery in all categories will be uncertain and painful. Leaders must also acknowledge it is possible that the U.S. could lose. That's the first thing. Secondly, our leaders must soberly calculate whether fighting a war is likely to improve the country's condition relative to the results of the U.S. refusing to choose war. Neglecting to make this basic assessment is one of the biggest failures of American government in the wars it has chosen since World War II. Let's see. So the cost of refusing to fight is one of their options here. And they say many pundits and analysts suggest the cost of not fighting is greater than the cost of refusing to fight. Some reasons are given are theoretical at best and unlikely to manifest. But some of the arguments about the cost of non-intervention to the United States and the Western world are genuine and worth addressing. One argument is that the impact on the global economy would be severe, ushering in the possibility of a new depression, not merely a recession. Such an outcome would be likely, in my view, the writer's view, and not merely possible. So, yeah, again, keep in mind, we have the entire thing where all of our chips in all of our places, I mean, just everywhere, consumer electronics, military electronics, all of these things are wrapped up in this this Taiwan chipset. And so this is really a big problem. And I think that most of what's going on here in this conflict is going to be detrimental to not only America, but also the world. Let's see. So Citadel founder and hedge fund billionaire Ken Griffin told CNBC last year that if the U.S. were to lose access to Taiwanese semiconductor chips, whether from war or other disruption, the hit to the U.S. GDP is probably going to be on an order of magnitude of 5% to 10%. It's an immediate Great Depression. What he basically means is we're going to lose 5% to 10%. Now, if you do math fairly quickly in your head, our last GDP number was about 2.4. Let's just round it up to 2.5. So if you figure we take a 5% hit at best, we're looking at a negative 2.5 GDP growth. If it's 10%, we're looking at a negative 8 GDP growth. I mean, this is really some scary stuff. And I'm sorry, but Joe Biden being in the office, I can't even imagine, to be honest with you. British Foreign Secretary James Cleverly warned that war over the Taiwan Straits would destroy world trade worth $2.6 trillion, according to the Nikkei Asia. No country could shield itself from the repercussions. Those are real and likely consequences of war between China and Taiwan, whether the U.S. fights or not. Now, also keep in mind, if you recall, the Chinese have this company called Huawei, and Huawei has been trying to make inroads, especially into the U.S., for many years. In fact, it was so bad that the Chinese silicon chips actually had malware embedded in them. Okay, and so what you really have here is, if we don't defend Taiwan, we have an issue with regards to the world economy. We have an issue with the potential down the road of having every single one of our electronics, no matter where it comes from, with malware and Chinese spyware embedded directly in it. This is bad. This is really bad, to be honest with you. And I mean, just the simple fact that Joe Biden is sort of ignoring it, and that the American mainstream media is ignoring it. I mean, I don't know if you recall, there's been articles talking about Chinese ships challenging our naval vessels in the Bering Strait. You have Chinese warplanes that are going after and knocking and messing around with our drones. Folks, these people are preparing for war. Xi Jinping had 2 or 3 speeches here recently that he went and he literally said, prepare for war. He told his people to prepare for war with, in particular, the U.S. eventually. They believe that Taiwan is not independent, that it's not an independent country. It is still part of the Chinese. And so even even though America hasn't quite recognized their independence, the Chinese, they think, just like with Hong Kong, they believe that Taiwan is supposed to be annexed into China. And if they move forward with this, because we have such a weak president and a weak admin and weak idiots in our government, that we run the potential of this becoming a worldwide problem. Now, if you think that COVID was bad and the whole COVID and the artificial shutdowns were bad, just wait until something like a negative GDP growth over and over and over again for, could be potentially 2, 3, 4, 5 years to reset themselves or reset ourselves from a war like that, assuming that the war ends fairly quickly or the takeover ends fairly quickly. Yeah, this is a really scary situation. I mean, everybody's focused on Ukraine and this whole Ukraine crap, but realistically, this is, in my mind, this and Iran's saber rattling is more important and much more concerning than anything that's happening over in Ukraine. This is just some scary stuff, folks. Some seriously scary stuff. We also have some more scary stuff. That whole Biden inflation thing that they keep talking about and everything. I know people are like, oh, economy, let's not talk about that. But I need to, because of the fact that I need to let people know that Bidenomics sucks. Bidenomics sucks. And in fact, the National Pulse here, as you can see on the screen, talks about Biden more than doubles the U.S. deficit in 2023, and the fiscal year isn't even quite over yet. I thought he was the deficit cutter, according to him. Of course, then again, he believes that he has traveled longer than any other person in the history of any other persons on Amtrak, and that he, is God's gift to whatever. Anyway, so, he's doubled the U.S. deficit with all of his spending, which, by the way, I don't know if anybody noticed, but he also approved another Ukraine package of money over to Ukraine. And that's really a problem. And hey, those wonderful U.S. inflation numbers that he keeps talking about? Oh, U.S. inflation, it's coming down. It's around 3%. And I keep telling you the opposite is true in terms of, well, yeah, it's 3%, but it's 3% now in comparison year over year. It's still higher than when he took office. Well, apparently some new numbers came out, and CNN, and this is really the surprise, is that CNN is actually starting to pay attention now. This doesn't mean good things for Biden. When his own leftists stand up and start talking about how things are not going good for Biden, this is really bad. Check this out in CNN Business. U.S. inflation means families are spending $709 more per month than 2 years ago. Okay, so I've been hit on multiple occasions about this whole idea that real wages are higher. How can anybody be spending $709 more and not have I don't know of any person realistically who has gotten a raise, and raises are typically anywhere from, let's say, 4 to maybe 6%. And you break that out over the course of a year, you're looking at maybe $100, $200 extra in your bank account. In terms of your, after you take taxes and stuff like that, you're only getting, somewhere around $100 to $200. Well, now they're spending, based on U.S. inflation on these numbers, families are spending $500 over that $200 that they got for a pay raise. So how is it that wages are growing again? How is it that wages are growing? It's not. And here we'll just continue on. Food prices apparently went up, not down, but up 4.9 in July. Food prices are still going up under Bidenomics. And this was based on the Bureau of Labor Statistics releasing new data on Thursday that shows that the price of food went up 4.9%. Now, what's funny about this is they keep talking about inflation. The inflationary number that they use do not include food and fuel. Okay. They use what's, I'm trying to think of the terminology, but I think it's like number 3 or something like that. And they specifically exclude food and fuel from that number. And, this is just crazy. I mean, how anybody can sit here and say that Bidenomics is actually working is beyond me. Totally ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. And of course, they were celebrating the Inflation Reduction Act. I don't know if anybody knows this. But because I'm sure the mainstream media just kind of kept it quiet. But Joe Biden actually was caught on microphone saying in a press pool junket that the Inflation Reduction Act actually has nothing to do with inflation. That he regrets the fact that it was even named that because it has literally nothing to do with inflation. Well, so what is the Inflation Reduction Act if it has nothing to do with inflation? Straight up. It's the climate, it's prescription drug costs, and it's taxing the companies, the most profitable companies that are out there. This is, I mean, I'm sorry, but if you're a liberal leftist out there, I try not to use the word liberal, but if you're a leftist out there and you actually believe that you're much better off under Biden than you were under Trump, you're a complete lunatic and you need to have your head examined straight up, because there is just no way that anyone can be, can be thinking that they are better right now. There's just no way. And the chat's over here talking about dog food. I mean, shoot, there's times where my wife can't even find dog food and cat food that our animals like. It's horrible. It is absolutely horrible. I just don't, I don't understand how anybody can sit here and say that this stuff is good. All right. So shifting gears a little bit here. When we talk about 2020, and honestly, even 2022, the elections, there's been a lot of conversation about voter rolls. And there's been some recent articles that have come out with regards to things like Michigan. You know, the Michigan state attorney apparently handed over any of the election malfeasance information that they had over to the FBI. Yeah, like that's really going to get investigated. But anyway, apparently, and this piece comes from the Federalist, but apparently there's a couple states that are hitting back. And this is kind of interesting. But here, this is in the Federalist. Exclusive. Arizona, Virginia voters demand election officials correct their state's erroneous voter rolls. Voters in Virginia and Arizona sent letters to their state's leading election officials on Tuesday demanding that they correct their jurisdiction's allegedly inaccurate voter rolls in accordance with federal law. Addressed to Arizona Secretary of State Adrian Fontes and Virginia Commission of Electors Susan Beals, the letters, which are supported by the Honest Elections Project, allege that there are numerous localities in both states that are violating provisions of the National Voter Registration Act, passed in 1983. The NVRA mandates states make a reasonable effort to remove the names of ineligible voters, such as those who have died or have moved from their respective voter rolls. Now, if you recall, right after the 2020 election, there were articles that were coming out as to the numbers of ineligible voters that were being culled from the rolls. And so, somebody asked me, do I honestly believe that voter malfeasance happened and that the election was stolen? Again, I think that there was enough stuff in the states that each state had to get checked and validated and everything else. But the remaining fact in my mind, completely remains the one thing that really and truly affected this election, affected 2020's election, is the fact that the Hunter Biden laptop story got completely suppressed and was essentially covered up and said to be a lie. We now know that it's true. And so that honestly is, to me, is the biggest nationwide thing that occurred. Now, each one of these states, yes, they do have problems. In fact, here, where I live, they had voter rolls that got cleaned up after 2020 as well. And there are some times where, there were anecdotal photos and pictures and stories of all these people who are out there who were getting second and third ballots from people that hadn't lived at those locations in years. And this is a really, really big problem. And it continues to be, and it will continue to be, as long as we don't go to a system that validates an individual direct with their ballot and some type or form of photo ID. And I actually want to take it a little one step further. I think it should be nothing but a passport. I don't think driver's licenses should be allowed because in the case of my state, they just hand out driver's licenses to just about anybody who can pass the freaking driver's test. To me, that doesn't count as a validation of whether or not a person has the right to vote. And even in my state, even if you do, you get asked, do you want to register to vote as you get your driver's license? And I think that even though they're attempting to be efficient, realistically, I don't think it's prudent to do that kind of thing. Now, I personally think that all U.S. citizens at the age of 18, just like registering for selective service, should get a passport given to them by the federal government. Not charged, but given to them, just like other countries in this world do. And that should be your legal ID, not your driver's license, but your U.S. passport, showing that you're not only a citizen, but that you've also had things checked, like your birth certificate, like where you live, and so on and so forth. There's a few more checks that happen on a U.S. passport, on acquisition of a U.S. passport, than happen for a driver's license. Okay. All right. So let me get on to let me go ahead and get on to our last segment. Let's go to questions for whiskey, because I really don't want to miss this. These couple of questions are really, really, at least for me, they were pretty interesting. So I'm happy that Outlaw Dogs went ahead and put this in on the questions for whiskey segment of the show. So here's the two questions. I'm going to read them in part. The first one first, and then we'll get to the other ones. She writes, I came across something today and thought it was very interesting. The intolerable acts. Never heard of them before. What were they, and how do they relate to today? Okay, so the intolerable acts were, depending upon which one you go with, okay, depending upon where you get your information, they were either 4 or 5 particular acts that the British Commonwealth put on the colonies, the American colonies. And of course, keep in mind, this is in the months leading up to the American Revolution. So they were passed in 1774. And the 4 acts in particular, there are supposedly there's 5. There's either 4 or 5, depending upon how you want to read it. But the 4 acts that were sent out were the Boston Port Act, the Massachusetts Government Act, the Administration of Justice Act, the Quebec Act, and the last one is the Quartering Act. Okay. Now, if you recall, I want you to pay attention to this, but if you recall, I said that the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, also known as the Bill of Rights, all 10 have come from things that happened during the American Revolution, during and right before. Things that the British government was doing to the colonies over here. So listen very carefully to these, okay? So the Boston Port Act was the first intolerable act that was passed. It was direct punishment to the city of Boston for the Boston Tea Party. The act closed the port of Boston to all ships until the colonists paid for all of the tea that they dumped into the harbor. Many felt that this punishment was unfair because it punished all the citizens of Boston for a crime that only a few committed. Many of the other American colonies actually defied some orders and sent stuff to Boston. Okay, the Massachusetts Government Act. This act changed the government in the colony of Massachusetts. It gave more power to the governor, who was appointed by Great Britain, by the king, and took away the power of the colonists. Many government officials that used to be elected by the people would now be appointed by the governor. The act also said that only one town meeting a year could be held. The act angered the entire colony of Massachusetts and put fear into the other American colonies. If the British government could do it to Boston and Massachusetts, they may do this to all of the colonies. The Administration of Justice Act. This act allowed the governor to move capital trials against government officials to Great Britain. In other words, they couldn't be tried here in the U.S. The colonists felt that this act gave too much protection to the government officials. Witnesses would have to travel all the way to Britain to testify against an official, making it nearly impossible to convict. Some colonists called this the Murder Act, although as they thought it would allow officials to get away with murder. The Quartering Act. Pay attention to this one. The Quartering Act of 1774 expanded upon the original Quartering Act of 1765. It said that the colonies had to provide barracks for British soldiers. In the case where barracks weren't available, the soldiers could be housed in other buildings such as barns, hotels, and homes. Now, I seem to recall, and I think just kind of to put this together here, let me pull out my Bill of Rights here, and let me just see. I got to put on my glasses here. But let me just see which one that might be. Listen to this. Amendment 3. No soldier shall be in time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a matter to be prescribed by law. Could Amendment 3 come directly from the Quartering Act, or at least have been influenced by it? I wonder. Anyway, number 5, or the 5th one, is called the Quebec Act. And it essentially expanded the British Canadian territory south into the Ohio Valley. It also made Quebec Province a Catholic province. And although this act wasn't in direct response to the Boston Tea Party, it was passed at the same time as the rest. And it also angered many of the American colonists because, of course, they were expanding west. And they were not happy about losing the land in Ohio or at having a Catholic province to their north. All right. So what happened here was, of course, the intolerable acts spurred on the American colonists and actually kicked them into deciding to essentially declare their independence and the start of the Revolutionary War. All right. The next question, hopefully that answered that. The next question that she writes here is, after the special counsel was appointed and pointed out that Weiss is a hack and the charges against Hunter will be a BS case, it brings double jeopardy. So the evidence against Joe Biden gets quashed. Okay. So here's the thing with double jeopardy. All right. And you've heard about it a lot. I mean, it was the central premise to the Tommy Lee Jones, Ashley Judd movie called Double Jeopardy by the same name. So here's the thing. In order for double jeopardy, which is part of the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution, it prohibits somebody from being prosecuted twice for essentially the same crime. Okay? The relevant part of the Fifth Amendment states no person shall be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb. So here's the thing, okay? Double jeopardy exists provided that you actually have been convicted of the crime or had some kind of punishment levied upon you. Okay? So double jeopardy doesn't count if you get off, generally speaking. If you've been convicted and had some sort of punishment put upon you, then yes, being tried for that exact same crime in the future is considered double jeopardy. Not to mention the fact that double jeopardy actually can be applied in other cases like civil sanctions or, civil asset forfeiture. Basically what it means as far as double jeopardy is concerned is that if you've already been accused of and have been convicted of that crime, you cannot be convicted again for the same crime. In the provided that, again, keep in mind, the circumstances have got to be exactly the same. They can't, you can't be convicted of, let's say, espionage and then get caught for doing it again and called double jeopardy. That doesn't work. It has to be for essentially the same crime and has to have occurred at the same time. So most of the time you'll hear things about double jeopardy in regards to things like murder cases. So for an example, the aforementioned movie that I mentioned, the whole premise to the movie is the fact that the woman, Ashley Judd's character, was accused of killing her husband. Her husband actually was alive, and she ended up to where she was able to go and actually kill him without being worried about about being convicted again, because she had already served her time. She had already served her sentence. And so that essentially is a good example of what double jeopardy really and truly means. So what would have to happen in Hunter Biden's case is that, first of all, he would have to be convicted. Second of all, he would have to be punished for it. And then if you were to try him again for that conviction, then you would end up in a situation where you would potentially have double jeopardy brought in. But keep in mind, though, that even in some cases, double jeopardy may not apply if the circumstances surrounding the crime changes. So there are some loopholes and things that, so there are some loopholes and things around some of it. And so, double jeopardy, I don't think double jeopardy is even going to come into place with this. So anyway, all right. Well, thank you very much for that. I do appreciate that question for Whiskey. I know I'm a little bit over my time. I'm going to go ahead and just take it anyway, because I want to play I want to play a portion, okay, of this absolute wonderful song. And it goes along with, as I said, this John Rich's Redneck Riviera whiskey that he created. This gentleman created a song, and it has taken on fire. It's gotten a lot of traction. And part of it is because of the fact that, Dan Bongino and John Rich have both jumped in, and this thing has just gone viral. So let me go ahead and bring it up. Now, this is a country song. It is called Rich Men North of Richmond by Oliver Anthony. Let's take a quick listen to this.
I've been selling my soul, working all day, overtime hours for bullshit pay, so I can sit out here and waste my life away, drag back home and drown my troubles away. It's a damn shame what the world's gotten to for people like me, people like you. Wish I could just wake up May it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is. Living in the new world with an whole soul. These rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just wanna have total control. Wanna know what you think, wanna know what you do, and they don't think you know, but I know that you do. 'Cause your dollar ain't shit, and it's taxed to no end. 'Cause the rich men, 'cause the rich men.
All right, and that is just a small taste of Oliver Anthony, but I got to tell you, it was kind of surprising. John Rich actually, I believe, put out on Twitter that he is willing to produce an album for this guy, and that is just fantastic for him. You know, and Dan Bongino jumped on and was like, "Hey, let's have him. You know, let's do this. Let's take this over." So, you know, just to have that opportunity, just to have that pop up in is just incredible. I mean, I can only wish for something like that for this program, but it would just be astronomical for something like that. He's going to skyrocket. It's not only that song too, by the way. The article that I pulled that up on Billboard, it actually says that he's got a lot more than just that. So we're going to have to keep an eye on this guy. Okay. And that is my final Whiskey Musings thought of the evening. Do me a favor, if you enjoy the program, head on over to Rumble, sign up for an account, it's free, and then follow the Whiskey Musings broadcast. We will see you this Wednesday, right here again on the Whiskey Musings broadcast. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you on Wednesday. Good night, everybody.
The Whiskey Musings broadcast is produced by Active Eye Media, LLC. All rights reserved.